Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. I, female, 37, have been married for 2 years, dated for 3, to my husband, Jake, male, 36. We're both very committed to the idea of a strong family bond and share a link with our parents and siblings despite everyone living in different places. So we always try to make the time to visit, keep up with the lives of our nephews and nieces, and especially stay in touch with our parents. It's a little tough sometimes because my parents weren't exactly welcoming of Jake when we first got married. To be honest, there's absolutely no reason. My mom just thinks he had a bad vibe. And even Jake's mom was a little cold towards me because she's always been a smother, not a mother. To her, I was taking away her baby boy. I mean, yeah, these issues haven't completely gone away, but it has only been 2 years into the marriage. And I kind of get it because Jake's dad passed away when he was 12 or so. She was the only parental figure he had, so I always assumed their bond was close. About a year ago, Jake told me that he was going to visit his mom and help her with a routine medical checkup. We live in Oklahoma and mother-in-law lives over in California, so I was surprised that he decided to travel last minute. But I knew it was important that he be there for his mother. I mean, hospitals can be scary, especially when you're old. When he got there, I got a call from him in tears saying that his mom had been diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. This was terrible, and I immediately wanted to be there for him. I told him, Jake, that's terrible, and as strong as you are, you can't handle this alone. Let me be there for you. He was too overwhelmed to give me any response, but he told me that it wasn't going to be the best idea for me to come over right then and there. I was understanding of his perspective, and maybe his mom wanted it to be about family alone, so that was also a part of it. Anyways, he came back to OKC and told me that he was going to have to take time out of his life to be there for his mom. He meant that he was willing to quit his job, move back in with his mom, and stay there with her to help her through the journey. I was adamant that I could also move with him, and even if I don't stay at their house, we could at least be in the same state. He said that he didn't want me to drop everything, and my job and my friends were here. That too made sense, since I was from Oklahoma itself, and his home state was Cali. My network was here, and although I was willing to drop it all and be there for him, Jake convinced me to stay and work it out long distance for the time being. I agreed to this, and we began an LDR for a year. He left a week after this conversation and began getting involved in his mom's fight against cancer. During the year this was taking place, he would sometimes visit me, but never allowed me to visit. There was always a reason, whether it be the house being too cluttered, the schedule of doctor's appointments not lining up, or the idea of me being there affecting his mom's mental health. I didn't push it, but something about that always irked me. If I brought up anything about the issue, Jake complained about how difficult it was taking care of his mom and gave me grave updates that took over the conversation. I suppose I would have been able to confront him about it immediately one day, but I didn't have to because I ended up seeing mother-in-law in Walmart near my house. I was completely shocked. Not only was my mother-in-law completely healthy, but she was also in my town. I had to run up to her and make sure this wasn't some crazy doppelganger. When I got within her eyesight, mother-in-law turned around and tried to make a beeline for the exit. At this point, I wasn't going to leave without finding some answers, so I shouted, "Hey, Barb," mother-in-law's name, "is that you?" She winced and turned back to look at me. It was her, all right. "Hey, OP, how nice to see you," she said, but without any kind of nice in her voice. "It's great to see you too. How's your treatment going? Jake tells me that it's pretty bad. I hope your doctor cleared you to come here. I mean, traveling seems like a massive struggle, especially for someone in your condition." I could tell that my asking her had her flustered, and her response was a vague mess. My curiosity had given way to anger by this point, and I straight up asked her to cut to the chase. She didn't give me any answers, but instead began going off on me for how I had bullied and abused Jake and turned him into a victim. She told me that I was a monster and tried to walk away. I wasn't going to physically restrain her at this point, so I told her to F off and decided that I'd go home and call Jake. When I got home and called Jake, he was already as pale as a ghost. Mother-in-law had spilled the beans, and I knew there was no point beating about the bush. "What the frick have you been doing for the last year, Jake?" I asked, and he ran off of a whole script saying that he needed space for mental health issues and wasn't able to confront me about it, so he told his mother-in-law that I had been toxic towards him and used that as an excuse to move to a different flat, still in OKC, by the way, which explains the visits. His mom had also believed this and often used to visit her son to take care of him, not the other way around. I mean, what? I wasn't able to buy this even then, and I knew I was being lied to. So I did the craziest thing ever. I hired a private investigator. I never thought it would come to that, but I guess I had to act like the jealous wife in the movie to get answers. I mean, even if it was true, I was aggressive and mean to both of them during the confrontation. I haven't received any word yet from the PI, and I'm beginning to think that Jake did have his struggles that he didn't feel capable of sharing with me, and was healing by himself to be a better partner for me. I began to feel like I may be TA when I looked back on how I spoke to the two, and I'm wondering if I should reach out to Jake and apologize for my behavior. Update 1. Wow, just wow. I finally received word from the private investigator I hired, along with all the pictures and evidence I'd need to file for divorce, which I will be doing. It turns out that Jake had just gotten bored of our relationship and wanted to enjoy the cool single life again. But he didn't want to lose money or get stuck in a bad divorce. So he lied to his mom about me, saying that I am an abuser, then found himself a studio apartment which he used as a bachelor pad for getting drunk and banging random women every other week. The PI tailed him to a bar once and even managed to record him boasting to a friend on call that he's going to get off easy. He had read that 1 year of abandonment would have been enough grounds for divorce, and he'd get his mom to mess up my character when it came time to serve the papers. I genuinely cannot believe how stupid, petty, and mean this man is. I would have been hurt if I knew he had gotten bored of us and wasn't excited for the future, but it would be nothing close to this. He didn't have the guts to have an adult conversation with me and decided to spin a web of lies to live the way he wanted. Update 2. I've talked to my mother-in-law about everything because, to be honest, I genuinely wanted to know how aware she was of the situation. It turns out she had completely bought into the OP as an abuser story and didn't even realize that Jake had told me that she had cancer. I texted her once to talk and meet up while she was still in OKC, and she agreed. I went ahead and brought the private investigator's proof, tapes, and the conversations I had with Jake about mother-in-law having cancer. She was devastated and had no clue her son would be able to stoop so low. I know she was a mama bear, but this was too much for her to defend. I got a promise from her that she'd back me up in the divorce settlement and that she wouldn't tell the court any of Jake's lies. That was a positive ending for me, and I was happy that she understood how badly I had been screwed over by Jake. Update 3. I told my family about it, and they are livid. I mean, I had told them not to do anything extreme or show up screaming and shouting under Jake's apartment, but they still commented on all of his social media posts calling him out and telling the entire world what a dick he is. My parents have also come to visit me, and my siblings are flying in from out of state soon to give me emotional support. After the whole social media fiasco, I got a call from Jake asking me to tell my family to take down their comments because it was affecting his mental issues. I guess nobody told him that I had discovered all of his shit, and I basically told him that I knew what he was up to, had evidence to support me. His mom was on my side, and that I'll be serving him papers soon. Then I hung up in his face. It was, I kid you not, the most satisfying thing I have ever done. He hasn't responded after that, and I know I'll be getting a victory in the divorce, along with a supportive family to help me through this betrayal. You guys have also been really kind, and thanks for the comments suggesting good attorneys in the area. NTA, NTA, NTA. Oh my God. Thank goodness you were just married for 2 years because this guy has problems. I can't believe he'd go to such lengths just to save face and not be open about wanting to end a relationship. LMAO. Jake got what was coming to him. I'm glad you were able to figure out what was up, OP. And you aren't TA for the way you acted with mother-in-law at the store either. It's a valid reaction if you were being accused like that. Next story. My husband, H, 32 male, and I, 29 female, have been married for 3 years. He is a veteran of the U.S. Army and values his military service as a very important part of himself and his history. He served for 8 years before he was honorably discharged. I gave birth to our son, M, nearly 2 months ago on November 11th. It's a long way away from his next birthday, but we've still been discussing the logistics of how we're going to handle future holidays now that we have a baby. My husband is very particular about those kinds of things, and he really likes having an idea of how things will go a long time in advance. It finally came up that he had been born on Veterans Day, which my husband obviously knew, but I don't know if it sank in at the time. I told him that I intended to celebrate our son's birthday on November 11th, and we could have our Veterans Day dinner the day after. My husband was angry and said that it's unreasonable to move a whole holiday when the whole U.S. is celebrating on that day, and that we could celebrate M's birthday the day prior or the next day. We still haven't come to an agreement. He thinks I'm an a-hole for disrespecting his military service when the baby won't know his birthday is being celebrated a day later. But I think our son's birthday is much more important. AITA? Edit. My husband is service disabled and usually spends Veterans Day catching up with military friends and visiting a nearby veteran cemetery. He has lost friends in combat. I also think it's important to add, my husband is typically very modest about his service, and he is a wonderful father and a wonderful husband. His military service is something deeply important to him, and while I may disagree on how to handle our son's birthday, calling him a baby isn't fair at all. Regardless of the decision we make, I know he will respect it. He is generally very selfless, and I'm not going to divorce my husband because of a disagreement. NTA. Being in the military is a job, and one he no longer operates in. Your son is going to turn 1. When you decide to become a parent, you make the decision to make sacrifices for your child. This is ridiculous behavior. Your husband is throwing a tantrum over a holiday when he should be celebrating a year of his son being healthy and happy and alive. Tell him to get his priorities in order. My birthday falls on Memorial Day every few years, and we take a few minutes to pray for my dad's brother and dad, who also served in the military. My dad was USAF, so it's important to him. But that compromise was something I chose to do because I love my dad. He at no point pitched a fit because now my birthday was seen as a threat to whatever glory he could hold on to. Find a compromise that works and tell your husband to get it together. NTA. Does your husband also celebrate the U.S. Army birthday on June 4th? It sounds like his self-image may be overly invested in being a veteran because he hasn't done much since. He needs to move on with his life. He should be thanked and celebrated for his service, but he needs to develop a life beyond that. Your son's actual birthday should be more important. I'm a Desert Storm veteran. Memorial Day is depressing for me because that's when memories of lost friends are strongest. Your husband may have irrationally strong feelings about Veterans Day for reasons of his own. You should ask if he's able to explain why Veterans Day is so important to him. However, as other folks have pointed out, it's a minor federal holiday. Banks might be closed, but most businesses don't, and many veterans don't celebrate it at all. Choosing to celebrate on an adjoining day or even waiting for the weekend would not be a big deal to most of us. Your NTA and your husband sounds special. Veterans Day 2023 is November 11. The public holiday is November 10. Can your husband selfishly monopolize that day instead? You know, since he's really concerned when the rest of the U.S. is honoring selfless acts of military service? Next story. So my daughter, 14, is in 8th grade, and the whole school is by the public high school. There is a program that allows 8th graders to go experience the basics of chemistry, biology, med, and engineering classes. The kids would go over to the high school in the morning for a class and miss their elective of the day, so like art class or gym class. It's a pretty good program, but it is only for the top students in middle school, basically the best of the best. They also do it for students who are great at literature or arts, but my daughter falls into the science one. My oldest kids before her both did it, but my middle child didn't get in. So my daughter gets in trouble a lot. Sometimes it is for small things, for not having her stuff for class, but other times it's for more important things. Just this year, she picked the lock to an art classroom to get some coloring tools. I'm talking to the principal at least once or twice a year, not to mention how many times she has come home with a pink slip. It's like a warning. She's the class clown and really bright. No punishment that I have tried made it stop. So today we got the letters who will be getting into the program. It will start next week until she graduates. If you don't get in, the letter always tells you why. Usually it's your grades. Well, we opened it today and it basically said she had the grades to do it, but due to her discipline record, they will not accept her into the program. She was very upset and asked me to try to appeal it. There is a process for the school, but I told her no, that this is the consequence of her actions and that I have warned her they will catch up. She called me an ass, and my husband is also not happy about what I said. Edit. She has been evaluated. All the kids were. We also thought she was bored with the class, so she got moved up and she flunked out. She has been to therapy, but we stopped after she refused to talk to anyone. We tried for 9 months. She would sit in silence. NTA. I'm not sure how I managed to get 2 responsible children to adulthood without bad grades or detention or drugs or troublemaking and turn them into lovely married humans that have good jobs and own their own homes and have nothing to post about me here. Because in Reddit land, I have been pissing off the perfect parents today. So I shall continue. This child is not mature enough for this academic program. It's quite clear. All these people dogging on the mom that she is affecting her education. No, she isn't. This is an advanced placement program. My children participated in my community as well. The poor behavior, bad attitude, and general lack of regard for boundaries that this child has shows her immaturity, and she should not be rewarded with an advanced placement program because while grades may be acceptable, she will not adapt well. It's hard, it's challenging, it's fast-paced, and there are rules. Clearly, she has no interest in playing by the rules. If the father is so concerned and a parent needs to be there, let the troublemaker and the dad appeal it and get off mom's back. P.S. If my 14-year-old called me an ass, she would have bigger things to worry about than if I was going to appeal for her to get special privileges, even though she doesn't deserve them. Much bigger things. NTA. And that your child calls you an ass? Holy hairballs. That would earn my kids another serious consequence. Your daughter stole. Her behaviors are concerning and need to be addressed. I hope you're able to get to the root cause and your daughter gets the structured support she needs to do better. The natural consequences of not being admitted into a school program is a good one. She and your spouse can go through the appeals process if they see fit. NTA. It's a consequence of her behavior. I am ADHD and was undiagnosed till I was 33. I was hyper and fidgety and definitely a bit of a class clown, but I never broke into anything to get something just because I wanted it. You mentioned she's been assessed, so she isn't ADHD. She's just being hard to get along with. Her behavior and attitude need a reset, and this may be the start of the reset. If her behavior doesn't change, she will miss out on a lot more. Thankfully, it's just this she's missing out on. Stand your ground on this. If you appeal, she'll know that no matter her behavior, you will help her anyway. Actions, consequences, all that. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.